firstly, of course, Harry will be attending the service at St. Paul's because Invictus is one of it's his premier achievement, I would say. I mean, it's one of the charities that, of course, he was attached to before he was married. I mean, it's his creation. So obviously that was always certain. I never thought that Meghan would come over because of the hostility towards her here. But I mean, one has to emphasize that the hostility is because, and it's obvious from the opinion polls, and also, of course, you get a press that was far from flattering. But that is linked to the Sussexes' behaviour over the last 4 years. I mean, one has to be frank about it. It may not be definite that she isn't coming, but it's most unlikely, and always was most unlikely, that she was going to come. And anyway, she'd find the reception would overshadow the message of the service, and you wouldn't want that. So far as Harry is concerned, yes, I mean, this is clearly a time when he will undoubtedly, I would have thought, want to see his father. We know he came over as soon as he heard that King Charles was fighting cancer, and that was natural. Equally, the optics of the visit were rather strange. He stayed in a hotel, and he more or less immediately went back, and he only spent a very short time. It's disputed exactly how long with the king. I mean, there's no doubt that subsequent to this, he may well come back over again, or on several occasions. Regarding Meghan and his family, I mean, obviously, security will play a part in this, but equally, one must stress that we know that security regarding Harry and also Meghan and the children, this would be dealt on a case-by-case basis. I would find it extraordinary that if they wanted to see the king, say, that there would be a problem. I'm sure that the security aspect of it would be handled. Regarding William and Catherine, I mean, we don't obviously know, but we do know that Catherine is receiving preventative treatment for cancer, and there's no doubt it's a very, very difficult time for her, and it's most unlikely, I would have thought, that she would want visitors who might be in some form controversial, whatever the intention. And William, well, there's a very deep rift with him, and I don't see it instantly being resolved. I think that if it is resolved, and illness is a big game changer, there's no doubt about that. And we know that the king and also Catherine, I mean, this cancer is very serious, as millions know. So if, and one must hope, it's in everyone's interest that the rift is resolved, so that hopefully this might happen, but will happen because of private contact that we wouldn't know existed. So anything that's outside the news media, the public, I mean, that has a far, far better chance anyway. But the problem essentially is one of trust. The Sussexes aren't trusted by the royal family. And if one thinks that Oprah interview, which did so much harm, actually went out at the time when the Duke of Edinburgh was ill in hospital, this is something the royal family won't have forgotten either. But looking to the future, of course, one must hope that the royal rift is solved in some way, but equally the only way it will be solved, the king has always kept the door open to Harry, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he would invariably get a warm reception. The facts are, however, that it will take its time, I would have thought, and it will be done, if it's solved, or in private. But clearly the situation has changed in recent weeks beyond all expectations. I think that Harry's visit presents problems for William and Catherine. We don't know, but I mean, it looks to me very, very unlikely that they would see Harry when he's over, and it's clearly not the time for that. But as I've said before, I mean, any bridging of the rift to be meaningful must mean mutual trust, and it must mean also that they're in touch privately. We know they have been in private contact after Catherine's video message, but we have, I think, a very, very, very long way to go before before the Waleses would trust the Sussexes for obvious reasons. So I think it's very difficult. I mean, I do think that Harry's trip has or will be overshadowed by the royal rift, by all sorts of questions of who he'll see, whether he's going to see the king, we don't know. I would have thought it was likely, but again, the very positioning of this, the very fact that he's appearing alone, or so we understand, in itself, he isn't popular in Britain now, and also it's very difficult. After all, King Charles is his father, and obviously he must have been pretty devastated to hear the news, and also, of course, Catherine. And her illnesses. So I think it's going to be rather awkward. What would normally be commemorating a remarkable charity is being overshadowed by personalities, by what's happened in the last 4 years. It couldn't be otherwise, and obviously the press will reflect this. According to reports, other members of the royal family won't be present, and that, of course, says a great deal. Whether in normal circumstances they would have been, of course, is another matter, but certainly in normal circumstances Meghan would have been, and obviously it would have been a possibility, but it isn't because of their behaviour and their attacks on the royal family, which, let us be frank, have been very damaging. I mean, it is no coincidence that among the 18 to 24-year-old group, you have the most favourable ratings of Harry and Meghan, and you have the least favourable attitudes towards the monarchy. Firstly, of course, we've got the security question, and I mean, that hasn't been solved to Harry's satisfaction, far from it. He can't pay for extra security, and his challenge to the decision made about security, which is taken on a case-by-case basis, failed. So we'll have to see how he handles it. I mean, again, the implication of what happened when he was here before is that he might from time to time come to see his father, but whether he sees anyone else and whether anyone else sees him, quite another matter. I mean, there's no question that there's a lot of stress and a lot of problems surrounding this visit, as there is with everything to do with the Sussexes. The reason is clear, because Oprah, the Harry and Meghan documentary on Netflix, Harry's memoir Spare, a whole variety of television interviews and comments and so forth have been very, very damaging to the royal family. And of course, there was the issue with Ovid Scobie and his book, which hasn't been explained too, just to mention one other. The whole point has been that if the Sussexes had stepped back, or sorry, if the Sussexes had stepped down, but led their own lives and not been critical of the royal family, I mean, this would not have arisen. But that wasn't what they decided to do.